Well, Nate, let's talk a little bit about that particular, drag race hating forum that you're a part of, because I'm really curious about, I guess, just sort of the queer culture, the queer community in RFR. I know we've been talking kind of broadly, and you've given us a number of examples, but what sorts of things do you find coming up, particularly in the LGBTQ forums?
Oh boy, it's I mean, the fear of hell is just ubiquitous. It's everywhere. But internalized homophobia and dealing with family is probably the most prevalent issue that we come across. That and no one will talk about Drag Race with me. But it's great because there are so many people, like I was saying earlier, there are so many people who have those tools now and who stick around and who want to help others that, sometimes like the last week or the week before, a young fellow came in and was asking about uh, how do I get over this fear that I'm going to hell. I've just gotten in my first relationship. I'm 19, and how do I have a healthy relationship when in the back of my mind I'm thinking you're wrong, this is wrong, you're going to be tortured for eternity for nothing, you know. And while I was typing my response, 7 other people had posted links and supportive messages and links from our massive library. So it's really supportive community. Everybody's really kind. I have yet to deal like I haven't had anybody really say anything that I had to step in as a moderator and correct in that channel. In other channels, yes, but in the queer community in RFR, we're like this, baby.
Yeah, I don't mean to project too much of my story onto all of this, but I have to imagine that honestly, just going through some of those forum titles and reading some of those posts could be incredibly transformative for a lot of folks. I've shared, my own deconversion story on air a bunch of times, and I won't bore everybody with all of those details again, but a huge part of it for me as a at the time supposedly cis het person, uh, a lot of why religion fell apart for me was recognizing the way that Christianity was treating the queer folks around me. And as I got out of my town of 4,000 people and at a big university and actually started to meet out and openly queer folks and watch queer film and things like that, the whole message just kind of fell apart for me, because if one part of the Bible was just demonstrably cruel and awful, then the rest of it, was no longer sacrosanct. I wonder about even the straight folks that wander into that space and find it I don't know, reassuring in a way as they're kind of walking out of religion.
I would think that they do. Again, I'm also a moderator of the Sexuality channel, so there is some overlap there. But like, we'll have guys coming in who have, say, a bondage fetish that they don't know how to approach their wife about, or an ex-Muslim who wants to get into the BDSM thing but feels shame about it and doesn't he's I feel like I'm doing something awful. Like I want to be a good person. I don't want to hurt anybody, but this sort of thing kind of turns me on. And then you can teach them about things like informed consent and the fact that the BDSM community actually is very respectful. This guy I actually pointed back to your podcast with Wrath that you had on a while ago. And I'm like, this guy will tell you what it's really like, man. Like, it's not what you're thinking, right? Like, go watch some porn, have some fun, and realize that informed adults are allowed to consent to whatever the hell they please, man. Just have a good time.
Yeah, no, that's an incredible point, and I think it just highlights the importance of being in community. When we
Mhm.
sit down each month to like talk about secular sexuality and like the direction of the show and what are we doing and how well is it working and what should we be doing differently, I try to always keep in mind that a central part of our mission here is just offering some introduction to sexuality for folks who have been told for their entire lives, oftentimes, whether that's 20 or 30 or even 50 or 60 or more years beyond that, that their sexuality is gross. And so they don't necessarily have the experience of what decorum looks like at a strip club, or which toys to buy at a sex shop, or whatever else. And so I think a forum, an opportunity to kind of air out those questions in a way that feels safe and anonymous and honestly like is moderated and protective is really beautiful work.
Thank you. Yeah, if I had a nickel for every time I've sent somebody to a secular sexuality clip, I'd have about $3.
Well,
So,
fair enough. That stacks up. Yeah. Yeah. So tell me, I guess, a little bit about the need here. We're talking about it in all of these different directions. Folks who are maybe being unleashed and introduced to their sexuality for the first time. Folks who are maybe still struggling with some of the vestiges of religion and everything else. But I guess I'm really curious to know where the hurt is, or what kinds of stories you're seeing as people are finding a little bit of healing.
I mean, the hurt is huge, right? Like, I often say, as people on the LGBTQ spectrum, we get the rare joy of having to come out to people around us twice, which is just great. So, not only do you have to deal with the fact that, hey mom, remember when I told you that I like dicks? Well, guess what? I don't think God's real either. So it can be a real challenge.
It's just like you feared.
Yeah, that's right. The worst has come to pass. Satan turned me gay, and now I don't believe in God or Satan anymore. uh, so yeah, it's the need is great, and the thing is with I don't want to put this the wrong way, but atheists can hide, right? They don't necessarily have to tell anybody, but somebody who's on the spectrum who presents as a gay man or as a lesbian woman or as trans, right? They don't always have the option to hide that, right? They have to confront it. It doesn't matter if they're 16 and ready to do it or not. They have to do it, and then they have to deal with the fallout from their religious family. It can be really tough. I fortunately didn't have that problem when I was that age. I was in the closet well into my 20s. But it is tough for some of these people to have to deal with two things that could potentially make their family hate them. It's the need is great. So, especially in the LGBTQ forums there, I try to keep that one on my phone so I can catch everybody who comes into it.
Yeah, I'm feeling that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, there's people coming in here who don't even know what their identity is. Like, they know that they're not cishet. They may not know what cisgender hetero means, but they know that something's different, and they feel bad about it because they were taught to feel bad about it. And then we can say, hey, there are other people like you. There are other people that feel like you do. And here's 3 that are willing to talk to you right now. that were in your position or are in the process of going through what you're going through, right? Like I have blind spots, right? I don't know everything. But what's great about this community is that these other people are willing to step in no matter what part of the journey they're at, and they're willing to sort of to help others and commiserate with each other, even if there isn't an easy answer to deal with transphobic parents. At least you can talk to somebody else who's going through the same thing, and that can be very cathartic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all making that kind of space and working through all that. Sarah, before we jump back onto the phones, did you have any other questions here?
No, I'm mostly just sort of listening to Nate and thinking how great it would have been to have that sort of resource myself.
No question.
Because there's no hiding. There's just
same. Yeah, it can be tough to hide, and it's great that now in the information age, somebody can come on who's 16. You have to be 16 to use it, but you can come on, and like for gay kids, what real sex ed do they have, right? Like even if you do get sex ed in high school, you don't get gay sex ed, right? You don't get trans sex ed, right? And we can actually come in here and have an adult conversation in a safe space, and you can actually learn something and be better off for it. That's pretty unique to RfR, I think.
It's a big deal. It's amazing.
Huge deal. For sure.